but then also less about the big fish and more about just your own idea. There's a lot of people here that are interested in collaborating and figuring out how to get out there. And again, it's not going to smack you in the face. You definitely have to get up and go out and push that forward and be pretty vocal about it or whatever that might be, and shake the hands, meet the people. But if you do that, it's a very welcoming place of people that not only want to be involved or want to support, but then maybe introduce you or, allow you to kind of see what that next element of the journey might be.
Welcome to YMI Talking, a podcast where the guests are so good, you'll wonder why the host is even talking. In each episode, you will hear one of the leaders of the Lehigh Valley's vibrant business hub. They will tell you the keys to their success, the mistakes they've made, and what they have in store for the future. Here is the host of YMI Talking, from YMI Insurance, Jimmy Honachik.
All right, that is me, Jimmy Honachik, but more importantly, Emily Ellis, what is up?
Hello, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. I am so glad that we do these live and we never re-record them.
Oh yeah, for sure. This is our first take.
This is our first take. I have not butchered this 8 times. This episode, though, is awesome.
Yes.
Louis Holzman has his own podcast, WDIY's Young Valley Leaders, and we have our own podcast.
Yes.
That's what we're doing here. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, we are?
Yes. And I had the idea, let's do a crossover episode. Mm-hmm. Why don't we both go on each other's podcasts at the same time? We'll cross-promote them. I thought this was really cool.
Oh, yeah. I think it will be cool. I mean, both of your audiences can tune into each of your stories, which you haven't done before. So.
Yeah, I'm nervous because we shot this one first. I've never really been on the other side of the microphone.
Yeah.
People are going to have to deal with listening to me. Louis is not hard to listen to. No. He's got a great story and he's deep, man.
Yeah, another deep one.
Yeah, I told you, I don't get that deep. So I am very impressed by people like Louis. Mm-hmm. And this episode is that. It's really impressive.
Yeah. For sure.
I hope I live up to it on my end. We'll see.
I'm excited to hear it.
Good. Well, let's dive in to crossover episode with Louis Holzman. Here we go. Here we go. I am so excited about this episode. I have been trying to make this happen. I think this is going to be, I think it's one of my best ideas ever. Louis, I feel like you have tons of great ideas, so it doesn't work for you. But for me, I don't get many great ideas.
Don't discredit yourself like that.
And this is so cool. I mean, you are super busy. And just to preface, this is Louis Holzman. You know him. He's got the WDIY Young Valley Leaders. He's got his own real estate company. He's vice president of marketing and altitude marketing. He's everywhere. He's doing all the things. But it's that podcast. You have a podcast. I have a podcast.
Yeah.
We are doing like a crossover thing here.
We are.
And it's going to be awesome.
It is also already awesome.
It is, yes. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. It's obviously a little different being on the other side of the table.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, you are used to asking people and finding out about them and who they are. And can I say also, I've listened to your episodes. You're a far better interviewer than me. I don't know. You're so good at getting people comfortable, and I'm just up here, winging it every day.
Me too. That's how life goes, man. I think you do a great job. I've watched some of yours as well. So again, I think the biggest thing is about having your own style with the conversation that you're trying to bring out in people, and being able to just be, very conversational and kind of unapologetically about, you're keeping it within certain boundaries, of course, but you just want it to be authentic. You want it to come off and have them feel like they want to share whatever those stories might be. So, we all have our own style to pull that forward.
How did you get started with it? What was kind of the inspiration and what made you jump into it?
Yeah. Shout out to John Dodds. I'm not sure if you know him. He's a ex-retired Air Products executive who's on the board of WDIY. Mm. And I don't even remember how I got connected with him really, but he then pulled me into what was the marketing committee at the time. And we were talking about, in a smaller group of us in this marketing committee on a quarterly basis, we'd get together for an hour to talk about the messaging and the channels and the reach and how to reach a younger audience, different demographics, disseminate on, through different mediums, and start to just bring level of attraction to the station that, generally is an older and whiter demographic has listened to it. And so over about a year and a half, maybe 2 years of doing that, I'm a big doer. And so like no love lost into the quarterly meetings. But after doing that for 2 years, I was like, all right, this is cool. Like I don't really, I put in what I'm going to put in here. I need to step back. Like not that it was a ton of time, but just with everything else going on, I just didn't have the focus for that. And he was, understood and receptive, but we continued to stay in touch over that next year. This would have been through 2023. And, just talking about kind of some of the same problems or same initiatives and our own personal things going on in life. We catch up over coffee, and it kind of hit me in the latter part of 23. I was like, John, like we're talking about, younger demographic. We're talking about disseminating different channels. We're talking about adding other elements. How do we bring, a new energy in, if you will? Let me have a show. Where I'll bring a younger demographic literally into the station. I'll add a video component to it. We'll disseminate it on Spotify and Apple Music and chop it up into reels on social media. And just through, my network locally here, like I'll at least start there and be able to have a pretty decent, pool of people to start with of all different backgrounds and stories and religions and race and industries and all different stuff that, either A, maybe never heard of the radio station, or B, if they did, probably haven't been there. And certainly being on it then and sharing it to their group opens it up to a new avenue. So I went to a friend of mine also, longtime friend, played soccer together as kids, but then he's involved in the marketing and advertising world as well. He's a videographer by trade. And I was like, hey, Matt, I got no budget. I got this idea. Like, do you want to be a part of it? And he was down. That's awesome. So he jumped on board and he makes it come to life on screen. And so that's been an incredible, partnership that we've been able to, it's really both of our shows. It's not just me. I mean, I'm who people see on camera, but without that happening, you wouldn't see me, hear me. The station does a good job with that, of course. But yeah, that's how it came to life.
That's awesome. And talk to me about, starting the podcast, the first couple episodes. Did you feel like it just made sense and it was working? Were you trepidate? Like, did you have any trepidations? Like, just walk me through that.
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting. I was out to lunch 2 days ago with another agency colleague at a different agency, and we were just literally eating lunch at Shelby, going back and forth like this, and the podcast came up, and I was like, it's no different than what we're doing right now for lunch, just sitting here, the two of us going back and forth. I mean, sure, maybe there's some components that don't get mic dropped, but like, for the most part, like I try not to. I think similarly to how you run yours, like I try not to give people a direction. I want them to be able to tell their stories and have that come forward in whatever natural or authentic way that makes sense. So there's some level of like outline of, I'll call it like general questions that I honestly, since season 1, episode 1 has been basically the same outline that I've given. And it's curated a little bit depending on the individual. The first season, through 2024 were people that I would consider like decent friends that I've known for a while, like know of their backgrounds and what they're doing pretty well. So you can prod or converse in a different way than as we moved into 2025 and season 2, there's people I know, but not nearly as like well. And so that level of conversation and how that pulls forward is different, but almost like in like a good way, because it is very much exploratory. Like I'm not pulling forward things I like know about that I want them to talk about. It's like, like, what do you want to share? Nerves. Yeah, sure. Even coming here this morning, it's like, how's this going to go? Right. But I very much am on the fly kind of guy. My like value to most organizations is being able to connect, communicate, and do that effectively, and really across a wide, diverse group of people, and understanding where that shared value may live for the organization, for the individual, and then being able to help bridge that, even if it doesn't include me going over that bridge, but figuring out how that pushes the other 2 or 3 year organizations together. So it's a little bit natural for me in that way, but it's never just like comfortable. if you will, right?
And there's something I think about that. I loved when I sent everyone like a preparation deck, and your response last night was like, I appreciate this, but I'm much better on the fly. And I think there's something to that where the conversation is more organic. And like you said, you're able to really develop those connections pretty quickly to make people comfortable.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Is that something you've always kind of had?
Yeah, it's one of those inherent things that I can't put my finger on of where it comes from. It's a blessing and a curse. You go through life and there's so many people and things and places that you want to do and you want to be a part of, and you obviously can't be everywhere. And also you can't stretch yourself too thin where you're like, going nuts. But ever since I was, in grade school through high school, even into college, like I was the person that was involved in a litany of things that weren't necessarily like related, from SGA to marching band to four sport varsity athlete to theater to just like a lot of. And so in doing that put me in a lot of different social circles. It put me in with a lot of different groups of people. Also, I guess kind of shout out going to school through like the Allentown school district. Just that in and of itself, there's a level of like cultural diversity that and like learning that came through there that inherently most people don't get in other surrounding school districts that aren't as culturally. There's positives and negatives and all types of ways that come with that, but so those components allowed me to really branch out into understanding, kind of again pointing back to that shared value or being able to connect and communicate and almost like cross-pollinate in between organizations and groups at that time. And certainly in my younger years, I didn't look at it that way. And I wasn't realizing that I was either A, doing that, or B, doing that at a scale that was larger, grander, like more active than most of my other peers. But then certainly as I got out of college and, entered the working world, and my first job was a startup technology company, was 100% commission, like needed to like go out there and make it happen. So that enabled me to like go out there and make it happen. I was going to networking events out the wazoo in those earlier years and just getting comfortable being uncomfortable, being out there to, meet whoever had an interest in trying to obviously, sell the product or the service that I was in. But a lot of it was also just professional growth and understanding, like coming into something new. I didn't go to school for anything related to business or marketing. And so like kind of credentialless in a lot of ways. And so kind of putting yourself out there, figuring it out on the fly, and starting to understand like how to make your own mark and your own wave in this world.
I love that. You really kind of, you're not afraid. There's a fearlessness, and maybe there is fear there, right? But you're able to push through because you see what happens on the other side.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's silly, but I think it was it FDR? Only fear. Itself, right?
Yep.
So totally. It's not like, you wake up, there's a little bit of nerves. There's like, oh, what if this doesn't happen? I think the biggest thing that I've lived by now for a good little bit is like, what if you don't do that?
Right.
Like, what if you like take the easy road out? And like a lot of people do. And like, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But, for some of the things I'm trying to do in life, some of the goals I've set for myself, I know, and particularly like the background that I've come from, which isn't anything like super harsh or like in a lot of ways, but just in where I'm trying to move through in levels in life, I know like it's going to take a lot of doing the hard thing, the discipline, daily habits that just allow you to kind of move yourself forward, cause maybe some discomfort because there's some levels of differentiation that from a cultural standpoint or from like the social circle that you have or maybe had is not as resonant, like, or isn't doing some of those same activities as once was. And so then you start to feel a little bit of a pull away from, and not in like a negative way or like a no longer friends with people type of way, but just like don't have the same things in common as much. You're not in, involved in the same activities or, doing the same things. And so you start to, I don't want to say feel isolated, but starting to figure out like, okay, that chapter is here. Now I'm opening up and kind of shedding, whether it's habits, whether it's discipline, whether it's social circles, whether it's, whatever it may be for someone to then move in and rise and grow into that next version of yourself where that other social circle is waiting for you there, that like is sharing similar values or similar mindsets, but you haven't quite grown to that place where that's recognizable or where you've just happened to walk in and meet them for whatever case that may be.
You strike me as someone who is very thoughtful, very mindful. You're aware of kind of what you're going through, and you're thinking about the way it might ripple through your life and through different things. I take things on the fly and just kind of, again, I'm winging life here, Louis. Where does that thoughtfulness come from? Where do you get that deep kind of retrospective thoughts?
Oh boy, certainly evolved. I think a lot of it comes down to family. I think some core values that's instilled in being raised, and it's a shout out to my parents. It's also a shout out to my grandparents, and I can't like tangibly point to like one example necessarily. But I can just think of like some different, like I can just think of my mom, like in my younger years of just because you can doesn't mean you should, like, and like that type of principle. Yeah. And that can be across the board on so many different things between, material things, between relationships, between, conversation, and so that's, through a lot of my younger years, it's kind of the delaying of instant gratification. Like we live in a society where that is so tangible. Yeah. Whether it is next day delivery, whether it is the dopamine hit on the like of social media, whether it is like that instant like pop of like feel good. It's great. Like I'm not like prodding at anyone specifically, but like for me, I thought and have come to learn, like if I can pull back and defer a lot in my life, whether it's a tangible material good, whether it's a monetary thing, whether it is almost like a delayed sense of happiness or gratitude, I'm able to like live in the present, in the moment of those hard times, of those tough times, because then that's going to really allow me to appreciate those peaks. I try to live my life with not too many highs or lows. Yeah. And it might sound like emotionless or like, I don't wear my heart on my sleeve or I'm not very. It sounds more zen than anything. Yeah. I try not to let like things kind of really impact my energy in a positive or negative way. Right. Like, there's incredible things, and sure, I get happy sometimes. And like there's things I'm really excited about. Sometimes some things suck, and like it's like that's a bummer. And like sometimes I get like depressed. We all have that. Like, we go through spurts. But if the highs aren't too high and the lows aren't too low, there's like a little bit more of a constant steadiness that you can kind of pull back on. And rest on those good habits, those healthy habits that you have, and the discipline that you live within your life. And then that builds that mental capacity to, even if some of it is like in a day-to-day tactical standpoint, flying by the seat of your pants, your morals, your values, and the discipline that you have to stay on track with those isn't by the seat of the pants. Yeah. And that is what like guides and underlies everything else as you like go through the day to day on the podcast or on with a meeting at work or with catching a friend at happy hour, whatever that might be. I know that you have a lot on your plate, but I'd like to hire you as a mindful consultant. I need you in my life. I'm not qualified. I need this energy, Louis. But let's talk about, you mentioned your parents, and that's maybe where some of this comes from. Let's talk about, you work with your parents. How did you get into that? How is it going, and kind of where do you see it going? Let's start at the back end. I see it going candidly in a place where like that is my retirement. It is what, I'm in my mid 30s right now. It's what carries me through my 40s and beyond, regardless of if or what other job I may have.
Yeah.
I see that as, legacy being able to pass down from a generational wealth standpoint. And to qualify this, like, I have a tiny portfolio. So this is not something that's like big, grandioso, or that my parents started or anything like that. Where it started was 8 years ago, 9 years ago almost. Just like the most economically sound way for me to move out of my parents' house after living with them after college. Like, I was like, all right, I could go like rent and live in an apartment like this. But then I was like, and I was listening to professional development, whether it's reading, listening audios, finding people that have what you want, are doing what you want, have done what they want, and have left the breadcrumbs in life for you. Like, you got to take those breadcrumbs and modify it for your life. But it's not like most things aren't like a novel concept that has never been done before.
Yeah.
So if you can find some of the people and individuals that are replicating in some ways of what you want, then it gives you a path of what you may open your mind up to be able to explore, even if that's not someone physically tangible in front of you or that on a first name basis. Particularly with the internet now, like, you have expansive opportunities to find that type of knowledge.
Yeah.
So, I was listening to some people that allowed me to learn about passive income, learn about like what that is, like just what that is. I think that's like a active versus passive income. You don't get taught that in school.
No.
Like, and most families aren't teaching that either. Like, most people don't live by that. Like, so as I understood that concept, I was like, okay, well, that would be great. I understand the deferred instant gratification, the deferred gratification. Okay, yeah, I can like do the hard thing now so I can live easier than most later. And that's kind of where my head was in my early 20s. And so I bought a 2-unit, rented out 1 unit, lived in the other unit.
Yep.
It cut my costs of living. And that was like the start to the real estate company. And then from there, pretty much, bought a building a year, a little bit of a bigger building each year. And we have 40 some units in, the downtown Allentown area now. And with my parents, like my dad was a public school teacher in the Allentown school district. My mom worked in finance for a manufacturer. So like, it wasn't like, familial knowledge that was brought through here at the time. Right after I bought that 2-unit, my mom was just entering like a retirement stage. And she was like, that 2-unit I had to fix up. Like, we did all of the work and they helped me with that. And, from flooring to walls to paint to redoing kitchens, like bathrooms, tile, all these different types of things. And so it was like a hands-on experience and learning experience for us both in those ways. And she was like, I would diversify my retirement. And so in that, we collectively went in and then got another one. Then maybe 2 years after that, maybe 3 years after that, my dad was ready to retire. COVID had hit. He was a public school teacher.
Yeah.
He wasn't like quite at the max age but he was just like ready to do it. And like, we kind of had this real estate thing going on, and it was a nice thing that they could segue into and do something that they like cared about. We're giving back to our community. Super blessed that neither them nor I need or use the business as like any income. Like, it's not something that we have to be able to sustain ourselves. It's very much so future thinking from ourselves, myself, in a retirement and asset generation standpoint, but very much so at the time, 2013, 2014, 2015, like Allentown's going through this resurgence. It's just starting, PPL Center, it's just being built. And I'm like, man, okay, like all the institutional dollars and investment are coming in. Like, that's great, and we need that, but we also need a bottom-up approach of all of this housing stock that we say we don't have any affordable income or affordable housing, but we have a ton of it. It's just 100 years old and 30 plus years of deferred maintenance.
Yeah.
So that's where our focus has been. Like, it's all old buildings, 100-plus-year-old buildings that have already been cut up into apartments, and we're then going in and restoring them to their, to some of the historical features as much as realistically can or make sense, while then adding in, the modern amenities or the modern finishes, but still providing a product that, your, everyday Allentonian today, but also 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the people that have been here for however long, want and can afford. And, there are certainly challenges, with that, if, in a way, and not just with the tenant population, but just with 100-plus-year-old buildings.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what that takes to renovate. So there's been a lot of learnings on that. Definitely, it's not just us at this point. We have a great partner and a general contractor that we've established a good relationship with now over the past 5 years.
So you're not doing the flooring or anything?
Not doing the flooring anymore. Like, one of the places I got to stop after this is I'm going to go check in on, there's we had a 6-unit that went through a fire in 2023. It wasn't a fire when we had it, but we had taken it over and we had a full gut.
Yeah.
And it was, the biggest renovation job that we've taken on thus far. And so now we're at the point where, knock on wood, we should be, closing the walls up and getting ready for tenants as we, round out the end of this year. Mm-hmm. But that's been a 1.5 year long process that took 6 to 8 months longer than was originally hoped for. So there's like learnings not only in the process in which construction goes or the procedures, but then just with other people and partners and like the cadence and flow of the work and the communication necessary to make sure you're all aligned on how that works. And a big piece now in the business is, the past 2 years, my parents have spent, a legitimate 40-hour work week, like working in the business. And so my main role, my main day job is with Altitude Marketing. I'm leading that organization from a marketing standpoint. And so, like, I have a team there, like a whole different set of goals and accountabilities that most of my 9 to 5, hours are provided, given there. And so between the GC and my parents, like, they really have been hands-on in the day-to-day. Like, and so we all bring different things to the table. But a big goal of mine now and ours collectively, and we've already started to see the shift a little bit, is to get them like out of being first call. And being a little bit more, they can choose what they want to pop in on, when they want to pop in, little thing here, little thing there, less of needing to just be like so hands-on. I mean, they're retired. Like, at the end of you should go enjoy retirement a little
Absolutely.
bit. So that's something that we're working on and getting closer to. And again, as we get towards the end of the year here, should be able to turn that corner.
That's awesome. I want to talk about something that is a theme that I've kind of picked up on. I mean, you went through the Allentown school district. You're in real estate, which is super local and, focused on Allentown specifically. Talk to me about the Lehigh Valley, your ties to the Lehigh Valley, and just your connection and your general thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, so the ties to the Lehigh Valley go back generations for my family, particularly my mom's side. My dad's side, my dad was born in Reading, and then bounced around a bunch with his family, and found the Lehigh Valley through my mom. But my mom's side, I mean, I have my grandfather is originally from Easton, and so my mom's side is from Easton originally, which, historically in the Lehigh Valley, Easton was the main city up until like the 1900s-ish, maybe late 1800s, but with being on the Delaware, and that's how, rivers and trade and everything passed on and rivers that way. I
did the canal tours when I was in elementary school. I remember. There you
go. So Allentown, you have to go off the Delaware through the Lehigh River to get to there. So, Easton was one of 3 places that the Declaration of Independence was read. Like, it's pretty, like, the history that we have here is actually pretty neat. But, I mean, my mom's family goes back to there's Sisters of the Revolutionary Wars, I think it is. And my aunts and cousins have registered for that because we have ties back to family members that were a part of that at that time.
That's
so,
really cool.
It's been a bit.
Yeah.
It's been a bit. I don't know the whole origin story exactly, but I definitely have like family heirlooms and old tools. And there's like a family Bible that's like this big and like literally wood, like cover.
Yeah.
So like, some old stuff has been around for a little bit, and a lot of that history it's really intriguing. And it was passed down, to the way I know it, because my grandfather did he was really interested in it himself, but in that he created, I guess like a genealogy memoir, of our family. Kind of, I guess it ended in around the millennia, around 2000 or so.
Yeah.
But it dates back certainly before me. Some of my oldest cousins are in their mid 40s, and it predates them, goes back to, my grandparents, cousins and uncles and parents and everything like that. So I think some of that is a little bit just, since over time I've always been aware about it, and has been part of like conversations.
And now you're such I would say, integral part of the Lehigh Valley, right? Between the podcast, between the real estate company, between Altitude Marketing, like you are very involved in the Lehigh Valley. Do you feel that sense of, I don't know, almost history on you and just the connection now that you have to the Valley?
I do. It's an interesting relationship because so much of community is made up of all of us and the efforts that we collectively put in, right? And so what I love about the Lehigh Valley is that, and I've said this from the beginning, I almost look at it like a little petri dish. It's big enough where you have a lot of the industry, you have a lot of the incubators, you have a lot of, the different opportunities, the social circles, the different types of demographics, rural, urban, suburban, tons of different cultures. And so you can find almost anything that you can in like a bigger city. It's just not going to necessarily come out and smack you in the face like it might in a bigger city. You have to be a little bit proactive in going out there, and maybe you're searching for it directly, or you're just putting yourself out there and then like, oh yeah, look, wow, I met this person, or I see this is a thing, and like go check it out later. And so if you have an idea, if you have a concept, like if you wanted to start, this is a great place to start that. The cost of living, the lack of competitive nature, like, and don't get me wrong, there is competition here and it's a growing area for sure. But again, compared to these like larger metros that the Valley is dwarfed by, Philly, New York, even DC, Boston, I mean, even go out to Pittsburgh in some ways. You just have an ability to start pushing that idea forward. And then you also have the resources with like being able to find the people that are maybe doing it at another level than you, and that you can tap into, whether it's directly with them or be in some of the same events or social circles, in periods of time. At the end of the day, the big fish here in the Valley aren't really that big of fish comparatively to, going out into some of these other metros. But then also less about the big fish and more about just your own idea. There's a lot of people here that are interested in, collaborating and figuring out how to get out there. And again, it's not going to smack you in the face. You definitely have to get up and go out and push that forward and be pretty vocal about it, or whatever that might be, and shake the hands, meet the people. But if you do that, it's a very welcoming place of people that not only want to be involved or want to support, but then maybe introduce you or, allow you to kind of see what that next element of the journey might be. The total opposite side of this, and this is going to be like very counter to what I've just said. Like I've lived in the Lehigh Valley my whole life. I'm kind of in my mid 30s, single, no kids, no family. Like I'm a bit at a crosshairs of, I've always had this yearning of like wanting to find somewhere else that is home as well. And understand what that community is. And I don't know where. I don't have like a destination in mind per se. But I do know that that's something that's been burning in me for, nearing a decade, that I'm not like jumping ship. I know the Lehigh Valley will always be home. I'll always have the businesses here. And so my balance is trying to figure out how to continue molding and evolving and being active in this community and doing these things while also being transient from another place as well. So that's something that like I'm just literally sniffing out and kind of working through in my life at the moment to explore. But big traveler in general, so that is where that kind of peaks.
I don't want to crush your dreams, but I'm going to do everything I can to keep you here in the Lehigh Valley because you're such a blessing to this area, and I'm not going to let you leave.
Oh, well, I'm not suggesting we're going to ever like full on stop leave. You know,
yeah.
I always will have family here, always will have business here, and if I would ever go away for a period of time, it literally would just be that, and I know I would be building a life where I could be transient between both places on a semi-frequent basis to continue things pushing. I just don't know exactly what that looks like.
And I like that. And I think it ties into your philosophy. You're talking about cross-pollination before. I think you see a lot of times in the Lehigh Valley, people, they go through school, they do really well, and then they go somewhere else. And this kind of happened to me. And then you come back to the Lehigh Valley, but you're bringing the best of those other places here. And so I think if you were to do kind of what you're proposing here, you would pick up on things and make the Lehigh Valley better when you come back, essentially.
I have no doubt about that because I already feel that when I travel. I'm on a plane, I don't know, going somewhere out of the country maybe 2 times a year, and then inside the country, they're 12 to 20, depending on, whether it's work or pleasure, a little bit of both. So I definitely get out and see other places, and I really value that, and I really value other cultures, and I really value getting an understanding of how life is lived in different places and what that means for them there, but really what that means for us and me back here, and how you take that and internalize that. And so I wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
All right, good. Then I will let you go a little bit. It'll be okay. All right. I hate this because we're over time, and I've loved every minute of this.
It always flies by.
It does, but we are sponsored by Zcraft, which is a coffee shop in the Lehigh Valley, in the Promenade, in the airport. But they also do catering. But you go there, you get a good sip of coffee. But sometimes sip happens. And when is a time that sip happened to you?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's hard. I know me personally, I'm glad no one asks me this question because I'm not easily embarrassed. And so I wouldn't really have a good story for anybody.
Yeah, I think that especially in my adult life, I've really made an effort to not put myself in positions that are.
I still put myself in the positions. I just don't feel the embarrassment.
I can think of like silly things, I guess. I think, without like getting into many of the details, I had some tumultuous times in my earliest adult years, call it 18 to 20.
Yeah.
That, I put myself in not great positions. And kind of like the everything I just described today about the thinking that I have evolved from this 18-month period where, without too many details, law enforcement was involved, was
offline. We're getting details.
Was not in the places I should have been, was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. And you learn from those things because, and I'm going to say as a kid, you're an adult at 18, 20, but as a kid, especially men, once you get to 25, it's all right, you're you should know what you're doing. But anything below that, I'm still calling you a kid. I'm sorry.
100%.
But so I think there was a level of certainly instant gratification and also short-sightedness that, your world is seemingly so big and you're on top of it, and whether you're the 4-sport athlete, you have all the friends, you're doing all these things, and nothing can stop you. And then you kind of come to a place of oh, is this really what you're going to do? You're going to drop out of college? Are you going to be this person that had all this potential and then is just wasted in this way? And so that really, between those things happening and in a similar, similar time period, my grandfather passing, my mom's side, really shifted my mindset into growing up and realizing what do you want to be? And not that I wholeheartedly found and knew what knew like what that was, ain't it?
Yeah.
And like, okay, like let's figure that out and let's explore some new things. If you can't change the people around you, you got to change the people around you. And started to pull that forward in my life and started to think about some of the discipline and some of the professional development and some of the habits that I've been talking about today. That's really when that started. And so, from some of the lowest times in my life, like those are some of the biggest lessons that then allowed to propel me into a place of really unshakable, like, duty and obligation to myself and what I'm aiming to do for myself in this life, for my family, but for my community and for the people around me. Because without that, you never know what would have happened, but I don't like wish bad times on anyone and certainly don't wish them on myself. But those are big inflection points that you then reflect on that maybe without them, it is a little bit more laissez-faire. Maybe it is a little bit more tempered with like what that direction is. And I don't push as hard, or I don't put myself out there as much, or I don't feel like I can kind of just coast, and that's okay. And again, we all have different goals. We all have different aspirations that we go out for. There's not a right or wrong way to live life. Just for me and those, those places. And I don't know how appropriate that is or not for the show.
No, this is great.
But it's a level, when I talk with anybody, there's a level of vulnerability that like I'm bringing to the table, like especially if I know you at least a little bit. Like I'm trying to like have that authentic conversation, and to do that, to be authentic with myself, I need to be able to be vulnerable with you or with whoever might be across the table. Otherwise, like you're hiding something, you're lying to the person, but ultimately to yourself about like what direction you really want to go and how much you want to let them in to, whether it's be coached or give a perspective, or for yourself to like evolve and be okay with letting that out and being like, I'm not afraid of that. Like that doesn't define me. And it's what allowed me to grow in this way. And let's share this because other people may like resonate with that and find like, man, like it's not all for nothing. You do get more chances, like assuming it's not like something super terrible.
Right.
I guess I can leave that there.
Emily, are you writing these down? We've got so many nuggets of wisdom. Like we need to just get a book of Lewis's statements. Like if you can't change the people around you, change the people around you.
I wrote that down.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Like, I'm just, I want you to know that our episode, when I come on your podcast, is going to be so much more superficial than this. Like, you are such a deep thinker, and I really have enjoyed this conversation.
I've really enjoyed it as well. And the great thing about I'm not going to say what your podcast is going to be because you're going to do that.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to that because it's your story. Today it was mine, and I appreciate you having me on to tell it. It's not one that I've like openly really told, especially on a microphone. Yeah. So, it's good and healing in that way. And so I'm looking forward to hearing yours and whatever level of deepness or superficial that is for you. Like, again, we all have our own story, our own journey, and yours is special in that way. So don't discount that.
Another nugget, write it down. Anything that we didn't hit that you want to hit before we get out of here?
Oh God, no. I think you said we're over time. I mean, I'm just really appreciative of having me on here. And something that I always tend to end with on my show is like, what can you leave with behind for somebody, or what is something that really makes a big impact? And for me, 9 times out of 10, it's showing up, people. Like, whatever that is, show up and be present in what you're showing up to do. And that is so critical. It's what will cause some level, whatever you're trying to do, it's what will cause some level of attention, respect, or separation from your peers, because it is really easy not to show up. It is also not like looked at as like anything wrong with not showing up. Like, so, the ones that do that, then you see they care, they're putting the time, they're putting the effort, and then they're also very present in being there with you. Like that's more than half the battle. in relationships, in sales, in building organizations, is showing up.
Yeah.
So I think that's been something for me that doesn't have the credentials, doesn't have the formal skills. I'm not super, smart in all these ways, but I show up constantly.
Yes.
For everyone else, for myself, day to day, that duty, that obligation. And that's just how I try to live my life.
I love that. And I will show up for the podcast.
I believe that. I may be a little late, a little bit. Like I'm working on that. I've been working on that. Not for the podcast per se.
Yeah.
Although you can ask my team. Like I usually am flying in.
Yes.
The last 2 minutes until we're starting to record. But I do get there. Not just with the podcast, but in general. But still showing up. That's key.
Awesome. Well, I cannot wait to show up. It's going to be great. And thank you so much for coming on here.
Yeah, Jimmy, really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on here, and happy Halloween.
Yes, happy Halloween.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the YMI Talking podcast. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more content from amazing personalities in the Valley, please subscribe, leave a rating, and drop us a quick review.